Okay, so this is something I've been wanting to make a video on for a while because I find this to be a very interesting topic, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts afterwards. And I'm going to talk about Across the Spider-Verse and also the Spider-Verse movies in general. So there's an interesting thing that happens later in the movie that I don't see get talked about much in where I'm going to take this. So later on in the movie, Miguel gives this explanation to Miles. Spoiler warning, if I haven't said that already, that Miles is a problem with the canon, a problem with the timeline. Miles is not playing by the rules. Essentially, he's just doing whatever he wants. He's not doing things the way Spider-Man are supposed to. Such as, one example given is that someone who Miles saves later in the movie, or previously in the movie at this point, was not supposed to be saved. He was supposed to die, kind of like an Uncle Ben situation, how Uncle Ben always dies. And Miles saving him actually created a problem in that reality where it became destabilized. Now, the reason why this happens is actually explained by Miles, but it's also by Miguel, I'm sorry. But it's also explained in the Doctor Strange What If episode when he does the same exact thing. If you haven't seen the What If, minor spoilers from season 1 here, Doctor Strange was trying to stop what they called, in his series, they called it an absolute point in time, something that was destined to happen. He kept trying to go back and stop it, which is exactly what Miguel says Miles is trying to do. I believe these are the same things. The canon event and the absolute point in time are the same things. They're different names by different studios, but they're describing the same event, and the shows actually came out around the same time too, but I digress. So absolute point in time and a canon event are the same thing. It's something that has to happen in that character's storyline for things to progress. Now, why I think this matters is because Miguel tells Miles that he's breaking or defying the canon events, and they can't have that or it'll destabilize reality. Now, this is interesting because Miguel further goes on. This is where I say I don't know if Miguel was right about this, and I'm going to explain why. Either I'm not understanding this right, or this is intentionally set up to show later that Miguel was wrong. But so Miguel tells Miles that he was the first anomaly, and that he created Spot, and that caused all of this to happen, a cascading effect. Spot was never supposed to exist. Miles was never supposed to be Spider-Man, and in that reality where he became Spider-Man, Peter Parker died instead. Now, I want to break this down because I think, unless I'm understanding this very badly, I think Miguel is mistaken here. And I don't know if this is going to play into Beyond the Spider-Verse, but I actually think this is a false narrative because earlier in the movie, as Spot gives his backstory as well, he says that he brought the spider from the other dimension. This is not disputed by anybody. Spot brought the spider from another reality in. That spider bit Miles. Later on, Miles becomes Spider-Man. He ends up investigating the lab where this experiment happened. This is where the other Peter Parker is killed at some point. Miles then takes over as Spider-Man, and we know from Spot's statement in number 2, which again is not disputed, when the events of number 1 happened, Miles blew up the lab. This caused Spot to get hit by a particle accelerator, fancy science, blah, blah, blah. He becomes Spot. So Spot brought the spider in from another reality that bit Miles, that made him into Spider-Man, which later leads to Spot getting where he is when the machine explodes, and Jonathan, rather, becoming Spot. So Miles is not the original anomaly. The original anomaly did not begin with Miles Morales. It began with Spot. He brought in a spider from another reality, and he broke the timeline. So I wonder if this is going to play out in Beyond the Spider-Verse. Because I think Miguel is just flat. I don't think he's lying necessarily. I think he's very mistaken. And I think this could go into the last movie and how they reconcile Miguel. I think he's going to realize that Miles, for whatever reason, is not held to the same canon that he was subject to. Because he says earlier that he went to a different universe, and he tried to replace himself in that universe, a version of him who had died. He took his place, and he broke that reality and actually caused the death of everyone. And again, this is what happened with Doctor Strange almost in his episode. He was trying to change what had happened, and in his case, it wasn't going to a different reality. It was kind of time travel of sorts, but he was trying to alter the canon event and restart the story, and he also destroyed his universe, literally the same exact thing Miguel did. And I want to draw further because I'm going to show visuals on the screen. The way Doctor Strange's universe died looks exactly like the way this universe starts to die in Across the Spider-Verse. Now, that may be a weird coincidence because but it's kind of strange that the same visuals, and even I think the same color even is used, but it's clearly the same event. Now, this does mean that Miles saving this guy did kind of screw up that reality a little bit, but here's the thing. Miles is not the original anomaly, and Miles chased Spot to this reality. This is another point that needs to be brought up. Spot went to this reality first. Miles followed him there, and then a battle takes place, and Miles saves the guy who was never supposed to be in danger. Spot was never supposed to be there, as said by Miguel. So I don't think Miles is actually the original anomaly. I think Miguel has this very wrong, and he just can't see it or doesn't want to. But I want to hear you guys' thoughts. And I'm gonna. What do you guys think on this debate? Is Miguel correct? Because Miguel is looking at it as the multiverse is obviously something they have to be very careful with messing with. I'm not saying that Miguel is wrong per se, but I think his logic is mistaken, and I think this is how this might get resolved in number 3. So what do you guys think? Is Miguel correct? Was Miles the threat to the multiverse or the timeline, the canon?